Hello everyone, today we will be talking about .NET Core Developer 2024 learning path, in which we will be covering all these topics which are essential for a .NET Core developer to be aware of and to master. Hello. So to begin with, a .NET Core developer should be aware of C Sharp, basics of C Sharp 6 to 11 and .NET 7 and 8 and .NET Framework, which is the non-core 4.8, .NET Standard, .NET CLI and NuGet. Along with that, there are other constructs in the C Sharp which the developer should be aware of, classes, access modifiers, generics and function and delegates, events and other areas of implementation, some being advanced like async, await, collection, and your assemblies, working with assemblies and all those things. Also along with that, in .NET 7 and 8, that is .NET Core 7 and 8, we have other important implementations like things like multi-threading, cryptography and security implementations a developer should be aware of. Moving on, we have general development skills like design patterns, data structure and algorithm, software architecture, and some principles like solid, Yagni, drag and kiss principle. Also, the developer should be aware of basic things around Git, also how to do a clean code and refactoring and architectural patterns. Starting with design patterns, as we are aware, there are three basic ones: creational, structure and behavioral. We also have repository pattern. Now there are different other design patterns which are grouped under creational, structure and behavioral patterns. Some of the important ones being facade, factory method, template method, command, observer, strategy, decorator pattern. Software architecture, this includes microservices or the layered architecture which can be used for the implementation, and some of the architectural patterns like model view controller, MVP, MVVM, domain driven design, etc. So these are some of the beginnings, the important skills that a developer should be aware of. Moving on, we have ASP.NET Core. ASP.NET Core, where developer should be aware of web basics, how internet works, HTTP, HTTPS, DNS. Then we have APIs. There are three ways in which you can have the APIs: REST, gRPC, GraphQL, then the basic model view controller, and web APIs, which is writing a minimal APIs and utilizing the minimal API approach, and then we have controller. Authentication and authorization, we utilize cookies, OIDC middlewares, ASP.NET Core Identity, OAuth 2.0, Identity Server and JSON Web Tokens. And then to complement them, we need to be aware of middlewares and filter and attributes. Microsoft also provides certain .NET client-side technologies like Razor. Also we have Blazor, .NET MAUI, WPF. Now in Razor we have model binding, tag helpers, filters, partial pages and areas. These are some of the main components that a developer should be aware of. In Blazor we have client and server rendering, components, modes and static interactive rendering. In WPF, the basic things which a developer should be aware of is dispatcher object, framework element, UI element, controls and dependency object. Moving on, we have database design. A developer should be aware of database design like following ACID principles, data integrity, multi-level security. Now you should be aware of SQL syntax like DML, DCL, DDL and TCL. Database objects, which include table, views, index, synonym and sequence. Now there are different types of databases a developer should be aware of. One is Postgres relational, which is a relational database, SQL Server, MariaDB and Azure SQL. These are all relational databases. No SQL databases like MongoDB, RavenDB and Cosmos DB. So these are about databases. Now to implement those, to utilize the database objects, we use ORM, Object Relationship Model. For that, developer should be aware of Entity Framework Core, some of the basics around it, Change Tracker API, Code First and migration, if that is the approach which is being followed, and also the lazy and eager loading. Dapper is another ORM. It is a micro ORM and it involves mapping of queries to objects. We also have LINQ queries. LINQ basically has three kinds of operator. The sorting operator, like example order by, element operator like your first or default, and set operator like distinct. Moving on, the developer should be aware of caching techniques like memory cache, Redis, and application level caching. In memory cache, we use system.runtime caching, and in Redis, there is some basic concepts like data structure store, atomic operations, and in-memory dataset. Application level caching involves memoization. Moving on, developer should be aware of logging, basic logging implementation, which could be in form of Microsoft extension .logging, Serilog, or nlog. Also, in terms of communication, there are different ways the code can communicate: real-time, synchronous, and asynchronous. Real-time being your SignalR core and WebSockets, synchronous being your HTTP client, and asynchronous being some of the things which are implemented through Mass Transit, RabbitMQ, Azure Service Bus, and Apache Kafka. Now, to support some of the features, we need background tasks that could be implemented through native background services or Hangfire or Quartz.net. Object mapping can be implemented, and that should be the developer should be aware of through AutoMapper or Mapster. And the testing, which involves multiple areas, example being unit testing, integration testing, snapshot testing, and end-to-end testing and performance testing. All these have its own merits, whereas for developers, the main concentration area would be your unit testing, wherein he should be aware of a framework, example XUnit and Unit, mocking framework like nsubstitute or MOQ, fluent assertions, desk data generator like bogus and add fixture. Integration testing mainly involves web application factory and test server. Snapshot testing involves verify, whereas end-to-end testing involves playwright, and performance testing has K6 and JMeter. Now for observability, we need monitoring and telemetry. Monitoring involves some of the technologies like ELK stack, Datadog, Prometheus, and Grafana, whereas telemetry basically involves around your OpenTelemetry and Jaeger as the technologies involved. The cloud technologies basically hovers around Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, and PCF. Containerization basically involves around what containers you're using and also how you're orchestrating it. Containers being Docker and Azure Container Registry, whereas orchestration could be your Kubernetes or Helm. Continuous integration and delivery. A developer should be aware of some of the basic concepts of CI/CD along with the GitHub Actions, GitLab CI, Azure Pipeline, Travis CI, and Jenkins being other technologies that he should be aware of. .NET libraries to help him complete some of the work could be Mediator, Poly, Fluent Validation, Benchmark.NET, Refit, YARP, and Swashbuckle. So if you're aware of most of these technologies, you're pretty good placed in terms of knowledge around .NET Core development, and there are many more technologies which a person could continue learning and progress further in career. So thanks for watching the video. If you like the video, please press like and subscribe to the channel. Have a nice day.